The service is going to go along fairly quickly. Tom Madrew is our MC this year. I just have to welcome you and thank you in advance, and I promise not to thank a million people later in the discussion because everybody nods off during that. We do have a good group. The mayor and council are here. I'd like to thank them for their support putting this together this year. It's not an easy task. Take my word for it. It keeps everybody busy probably since late March doing things. So we appreciate it. We appreciate the fire department, the police department always represents themselves well here for us. And the scouts, both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, make note of that I said Girl Scouts. And we hope to have a good meeting here today this morning. The parade will step off at 10:30 as been put in the paper pretty regularly. And so we'll be out of here well in time for that. At this time, I'd like to introduce Pastors Sharon Gross Gill for the invocation.
Good morning, everyone. Let us pray. Dear God, on this Memorial Day, we come before you, the creator of humankind, with heavy hearts, remembering the sacrifices made by those who bravely served our great country and gave their lives for our freedom. We pray for the families and loved ones of those who lost their lives in service to our nation. Our one and only eternal God, we ask for your blessings upon the souls of those good men and women who gave their last breath in defense of our nation, our freedom, and our children's future. We also ask you to bless everyone gathered here today and grant us the strength to rise to the challenges of our times and meet them in full faith that you will always be with us. May we glorify you in all that we do, today and forever. And the children of God say, amen.
Before we do the national anthem, I'd like to also tell everyone that the Legion exists with three groups. The Legion members, the Sons of American Legion, and also the auxiliary, the ladies auxiliary. And they do a lot to help us get things going. So they're an intricate part of the event and the organization. So this time I'd like to bring up Sue Tedesco, who will present our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars
I'd like to ask Dean Reed and Brian Freelander to come on up, and they will lead us in the salute to the flag.
Salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As information, these two gentlemen are both Eagle Scouts this year, so it's a big. And they've done a couple projects that I'm sure you've read about in the paper, but the one that's dear to our heart, we have to take flags out of service from time to time, and the process is actually you burn them, and we have a service that does that. Well, the Dean built us a burning pit out of pavers that were actually at the World Trade Center. So if you have a chance, come on up to the post and you can see it. It's in the backyard, and it's a piece of art. It really is. Thank you. Now I get off the microphone, I introduce Tom Madrew. Now Tom is First Vice Commander and one of the hardest working guys in the Legion. If you ask him, he does it. He'll grumble a little bit, but generally he takes it on. So Tom, microphone to us.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning. I'll just like, again, what a gorgeous day, and thank you all for coming. We'd like to start right now with our first address, which will be presented by the Mayor of Park Ridge, Keith Mashagna.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to today's ceremony. I want to thank you all for attending. I'm truly honored and humbled to be speaking on such an important occasion. Today we honor our fallen men and women and remember the sacrifices that they and their families made for the defense of our freedom. I would like to thank the Jedh C. Barker Memorial Post 153 of the American Legion for hosting this event, and specifically today's parade committee, American Legion Post 153 Commander Robert Opelt, and this year's Grand Marshal Lee Hopper. On behalf of all of the residents of Park Ridge and our governing body, thank you for all you do each year. The idea for Memorial Day, which was originally called Decorations Day, began shortly after the Civil War, where more than 620,000 American lives were lost and hundreds of thousands more maimed. Many of the grieving families from both North and South began decorating the graves of their lost loved ones with flowers and wreaths. Sadly, many of the lost were buried far away from their homes and families, so as a way of honoring their own, many decorated the graves of others to help them with their own grief. In one city in Mississippi, people decorated the graves of both Union and Confederate soldiers out of respect for the families of those Union soldiers. And they hoped that in turn, someone would do the same for their lost ones in the North. And they did. Word spread about these informal honors that led to the first formal Memorial Day observance in Waterloo, New York on May 5th, 1866, not far from right here. On May 30th, 1868, at the very first Memorial Day speech given at Arlington Cemetery, President James Garfield said the following in honor of the Civil War dead. I am opposed with a sense of impropriety of uttering words on this occasion. If silence is ever golden, it must be here besides the graves of 15,000 men whose lives were more significant than speech and whose death was a poem, the music which can never be sung. With words we make promises, plight faith, and praise virtue. Promises may not be kept, plighted faith may be broken, and vaunted virtue may be only the cunning mask of vice. We do not know one promise these men made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke, but we do know they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. I can't do any better than that today at our ceremony. What words can I say that all these men and women perform for all us here today? Words like bravery, courage, duty, honor, and sacrifice only begin to tell their story and the story of the families they left behind. The sisters and brothers, the moms and dads, the relatives and friends that miss them on every occasion, happy occasion, after they left us, are all parts of their sacrifice. How many times were they thought of over the years in their absence? For my family, we remember my grandmother's oldest brother, Danny Proctor. On every Memorial Day, my grandmother Margie would talk about her oldest brother, Danny, with great pride and sadness. Danny Proctor enlisted in the Army as a young man and met his wife, who was also serving as an Army nurse. Together, they had a daughter and built a family while serving our country. During his time in the Army, he rose through the ranks, finally achieving one of the highest ranks an enlisted man can reach, First Sergeant. On December of 1941, First Sergeant Daniel Proctor, G Company of the 31st Infantry of the U.S. Army, was stationed in the Philippines about 3 months from his retirement when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. In the weeks leading up to the attack on Pearl Harbor, his regiment was busy planning its 25th anniversary celebration, and I imagine he was looking forward to returning to the States after his retirement, along with his wife and young daughter. 9 hours after Pearl Harbor was attacked by the Japanese attacked the Philippines at the Bataan Peninsula. Despite not having sufficient supplies and being outnumbered, the Filipino and American forces were able to fight off the Japanese for 4 months before being overrun. Soon after, the Japanese forced our troops what will become known as the Bataan Death March. It's unclear when First Sergeant Proctor was killed, but he never made it home. Just recently, my 87-year-old father was contacted by the U.S. Army asking for a DNA sample. The United States Army is still looking for First Sergeant Proctor's remains over 80 years later. My grandmother Margie, who lived to 92, never forgot her brother Danny or what he sacrificed, and I am grateful that the United States Army hasn't forgotten him either. So that is why we gather here today, to remember the fallen, to honor all of them with one simple task: remembrance. Our job is to remember these fine men and women and to be thankful for their sacrifice and the sacrifice of their families and loved ones. Today, in Park Ridge, we honor our extended family, those friends and neighbors and family members that have paid the ultimate price for our freedom. 24 brave Park Ridge residents that gave their lives in defense of liberty and our way of life. In a few moments, we'll read those names. But in conclusion, to the members of the Jedh C. Barker Memorial Post 153, as you celebrate over 100 years of service to our community and to this great country, we say thank you for all you do. Thank you for hosting the ceremony and parade each year, and may you continue your important work for another 100 years. To our Gold Star families present here today, we extend our sincere gratitude on behalf of the residents of Park Ridge and a grateful nation. Your sacrifice can never be repaid. In a few moments, several groups will begin to place wreaths at our memorial. The ceremony will end with the playing of taps and a military gun salute. But as we go back to our busy lives, please remember what these brave soldiers did for all of us. God bless them, their families, and the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Mashagna. Our next address will be presented by former Park Ridge Mayor Rich Mancinelli.
Commander Opel, Mayor Mashagna, and council members, honored guests, and especially to all the family and friends of the men and women who have bravely served in our armed services, good morning. I must admit, I was completely surprised when Commander Opel called me back in early April and asked if I would speak today. I've known Bob for a very long time and had appointed him and served with him on numerous boards and committees together. Over the years, I've come to appreciate his sense of humor. So I wasn't sure why he was reaching out to me to speak. I asked Bob if I should focus on a particular theme for today, and he said, no, not really. Just do that mayor thing and don't take more than 10 minutes. It was 35 years ago, this day in 1988, that I gave my first Memorial Day address as a very nervous 28-year-old mayor. That year, President Ronald Reagan designated Memorial Day as a day of prayer for permanent peace as the first Iran-Iraq war came to a horrific end. For 13 subsequent Memorial Days until 2001, which somebody reminded me was 22 years ago, was the last time I spoke publicly in Park Ridge, I had the honor and privilege to address the residents of Park Ridge, our distinguished military veterans, and our Gold Star families. Every year, reading the names of the 24 young men from Park Ridge, whose names are behind me and permanently etched forever in this monument, still gives me chills and perhaps the greatest honor bestowed upon me and perhaps to any mayor. They made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our great nation, and events like today in Park Ridge and all across our nation, communities come together to remember and reflect on the service and sacrifice of those who paid the true cost of freedom. In cemeteries across America and around the world today, people will pause to spread flowers on the graves of those lost in war, but today should not be about the sorrow we feel at their loss and not about mourning. What it should be about was best expressed by General George Patton back in 1944 at a military cemetery in France. Looking out across a field filled with rows of crosses marking the graves of men who just days before had been part of his army, General Patton said, "We should thank God that such men lived." On a personal note, 4 weeks ago, I was vacationing in Europe, and I made an unplanned stop at the Battle of the Bulge Monument in Bastogne in the Luxembourg province of Belgium. For those who might not remember their history, the Battle of the Bulge was the last major German offensive campaign on the Western Front in World War II. The battle lasted for 5 weeks from December 16, 1944 to January 28, 1945, towards the end of the war in Europe. Without getting into too much historical detail, the Germans had launched a total surprise attack on the morning of December 16, 1944, and American forces bore the brunt of that attack. Fierce American resistance and improved weather conditions allowed for a massive American counterattack, and subsequently the Allies prevailed. America committed over 705,000 troops and suffered 75,482 battle casualties, including at least 8,407 killed and 46,170 wounded and 20,905 missing. The Bulge was the largest and bloodiest battle fought by the United States in World War II and the third deadliest campaign in American history. The Battle of the Bulge Monument was built by the Belgian people as a gift to the United States, honoring the memory of American soldiers wounded or killed during the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. Designed in the shape of a 5-pointed star, It was officially decorated and dedicated on July 16, 1950. There are 10 carved panels ringing inside of the memorial that tells the story of the battle. In addition, every state is engraved around the perimeter of the monument. To my disappointment, when I arrived there, the monument was closed under renovation, and it was barricaded from the public to enter. There were, however, a group of young Belgian students, not more than 12, 13 years old, running around inside the barricade, apparently as part of a school trip to that museum. I naturally inquired how they got inside, and they helped me, I'll use the word sneak in, through the gated barricade. I had traveled 3,800 miles, and I knew I most likely would never have a chance to visit again in my lifetime. I climbed up the stairs and was standing on the top of the 5-star monument, taking in the gravity of what I was witnessing. It was at this place 78 years ago that our fathers, our grandfathers, and perhaps our great-grandfathers joined in force with other allied forces of 5 other countries to take the final stand against an enemy who for nearly 5 years had violated their soil and vainly tried to crush their national spirit. As I walked down the steps of the monument, I witnessed a group of 10 Belgian students in unison praying. I asked them why they were doing that, and the boy, again, no older than 12, who had also spoke English, told me that their school requires every student who takes this class trip to take a moment to say a prayer in the memory of the Belgian families who lost relatives in World War II. Needless to say, I was speechless in that moment. And for those who have known me so many years, you know how difficult that is for me to be speechless at any moment. Back home here in America, what we must do to really honor the sacrifices of those who gave their lives for the noblest of causes is to live for what they died for. We must live to preserve their legacy, educating all who believe Memorial Day is just another holiday and the unofficial beginning of summer, and passing along our knowledge to the next generation so they may do the same. We must ensure that the youth of tomorrow understands the true cost of freedom. Commander Opel and the members of the Corporal Jedh C. Barker Memorial American Legion Post 153, thank you again for having me here today. Your commitment to ensure that every year we have a place to honor our veterans and to assist local veterans in need throughout the year must be fully supported by all residents of Park Ridge. I would ask all of you in attendance today to not only remember those who we honor today at this ceremony, but to keep our soldiers who are deployed defending our freedom and their families in your thoughts and prayers. God bless you, God bless Park Ridge, and God bless the greatest nation on earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Mancinelli. Very inspirational speech. At this time, we'd like to have the decoration of the monument with the wreaths that have been placed over here, and we will bring them up and place them starting right here in front of me. The first wreath will be presented in honor of Jedh C. Barker, the U.S. MC Medal of Honor recipient, and for whom our post is honored to have it named. The gold stars will be presented by his family, John Barker, Dolly Barker Lewis, and Susan Barker Ridley. Right there. Great, thank you. The next wreath, another Gold Star family, the family of Robert Murphy, represented by Judy Murphy, Megan Bronstein, Snooky Averna, and Don Averna. Thank you. The next gold star will be for the family of Charles Bigham, will be Charles Sappa. Thank you. The next gold star, the family of Harry Whitney, presented by Ann Whitney and Harold Whitney. The final gold star will be presented by the family of Thomas Kyle, Kevin and Thomas Kyle. They're possibly not here. Could I have 2 Boy Scouts please come up and move the gold star, please? Thank you, boys. The first wreath will be presented by American Legion Post 153, Commander Bob Opelt, and Vice Commander Rob Metzdorf. Thank you, gentlemen. The next wreath will be presented by the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 153, Ann Whitney, President, and Dee Mackey, First Vice President. Thank you, ladies. The next wreath will be presented by the Sons of the American Legion, Post 153, Larry McKenna, Squadron Commander. Thank you, Larry. Next, Park Ridge Mayor Keith Mashagna and the Park Ridge Council. Thank you, gentlemen. The next wreath will be presented by the Park Ridge Fire Department, Chief Mark Durst, and Deputy Chief Rich Bosey. Thank you. The next wreath will be presented by the Park Ridge Fire Association, President Robert Paller. Thank you, gentlemen. Next wreath will be by the Tri-Borough Ambulance Corps, Thomas Bilella and Mike Jewell. Thank you. The next wreath will be presented by the Park Ridge Police Department, Chief Joseph Madden and Captain Joseph Rampola. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, the Park Ridge Police Reserve, Lieutenant George Harcher and Officer Brian Garbutt. Thank you, gentlemen. Next will be the Park Ridge Rotary Club, Terry Ciulo, President. Thank you, Terry. Next, Park Ridge Elks Lodge, 2234, Exalted Ruler, Mike Morelli. Thank you. The next wreath will be the Knights of Columbus, Grand Knight Tom Kistler, and Trustee Mike Fitzpatrick and Vinnie Limba. Thank you. Next, the Greater Pascack Valley Women's Club, Elaine O'Brien and Elaine Mooney. Thank you, ladies. Our next wreath will be presented by Park Ridge Boy Scout Troop 80, Dean Rehack, and Brian Friedlander. Thank you, boys. The final wreath will be presented by the Park Ridge Girl Scouts, Linda Menzel and Heather Bergeson. They will also be bringing all of the Girl Scouts with them. Thank you, ladies. At this time, I'd like to ask Mayor Mishagna to join me at the podium as we will now read the names of the 24 wonderful Park Ridge residents who gave their lives so gloriously for this country and this town. Dorothy Bazone will ring the bell after each name is read. Edward B. Abrams.
Martin Castelloni.
Lester McGinnis.
Frederick H. Isner.
Charles Stalter.
John K. Chadwick Sr.,
Carl G. Clayton.
Charles H. Emmerich,
Edwin C. Engelhardt.
Frederick B. Holmes,
Eugene I. Laurier.
Robert R. Lentz,
Richard E. Metris.
Robert A. Sayers,
Harry R. Whitney.
William A. Smithers,
Frederick H. Dankey.
William J. Murphy III,
Jedh C. Barker.
Charles F. Bingham,
Kevin R. Murphy.
Thomas R. Kyle Jr.,
Thomas Mallon.
Glenn E. Truex,
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Vice Commander Robert Metzdorf to join me at the podium, and we're going to read off the names of the deceased members of both the Legion and the Auxiliary who have passed recently. Edmund Abdelhak.
William Alsete,
Edward Feynman.
Joseph Lutowski,
William Chapman.
William Sidlowski,
Dominic Morelli.
Ted Letty,
Reginald Duncan.
Larry Morgan,
Robert Ray.
Richard Rosencross,
Walter Bills.
Earl Valder,
Joseph Hoder.
Robert Vasquez,
Rudolph Cobb.
John Lydon,
And members of our auxiliary who have passed this year. Rue Abdelhak.
Mary Madame,
Carol Cortesa.
Vladislava Krowitz,
Next, Susan Tedusco will sing God Bless America.
For the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the valleys, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the valleys, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Next, I just want to remind everybody that what you're about to hear is a rifle salute. And I know some people get a little concerned, but our firing squad, Jerry Alexander and Russell Chapman, will now give us our salute. Thank you. At this time, Commander Opelt and Vice Commander Metzdorf will lower the flag to half-staff, and Derek Geyer will play taps. Before I introduce Pastor Groskill for our benediction, I just would like to remind you all that the parade starts at 10:30, and American Legion Post 153 will be holding a hot dog fest at the post up on 118 Ridge Road, starting at 12:30 this afternoon. And I would like to thank the Insera Supermarkets and ShopRite of Hillsdale for their support in providing the food for that event. At this time, we'd like to, the benediction, the Reverend Sharon Groskill, Pascack Reformed Church.
May the strength of God sustain us. May the power of God preserve us. May the hands of God protect us. May the way of God direct us. May the love of God go with us this day and forever. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And the children of God say, Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. That concludes our program. I just want to thank you all for coming, and have a great rest of the Memorial Day holiday weekend. Thank you very much. Goodbye.